All right, welcome to the live stream. Today I have a discussion on is your Novus Ordo Mass valid? Is your local Novus Ordo Mass valid? But that's not the only thing. We'll talk about some other things too. And as for validity, it's pretty it's pretty straightforward. I know like some people like the Sedevacantists would say no, it's not valid, but all that's really required for validity is a valid consecration. That's a pretty low bar. So the priest just needs to say the valid words of consecration for the Eucharistic prayer, and you have a valid liturgy. That's it. No jurisdiction required or anything like that. Now, Dr. Peter Kwasniewski has four qualities of the liturgy. He talks about this, I believe, in one of his books. He also talked about in one of his talks. And so he says that there are four qualities to the liturgy. Valid is a liturgy valid, licit, fitting, and authentic. So just because a liturgy is valid doesn't make it good. Um, Plenty of liturgies are valid. Even Eastern Orthodox divine liturgies are valid. So taking it to the next point is licit. You want to attend a valid and a licit mass. What makes a mass licit? Well, licit means in conformity with the law, so valid jurisdiction. And also, one thing that would make a mass not licit, and this is really important, this is actually pretty much like the whole point of the video. A mass would not be licit if a priest is in mortal sin saying the mass. So then, um, that's a really big deal. So the question is is your local Novus Ordo mass licit? Who knows? Like, you know, well, you would have an idea, I guess. I'm not saying to judge the priest. That's not my point at all. Don't judge the soul of the priest. Um, but in the sermon, if you hear things like LMNOP, if they have a rainbow mass, it's probably not a licit mass, and so you shouldn't attend it. You're it's just the same thing as attending at that point. It's the same thing as attending any schismatic liturgy. So you can attend an Orthodox liturgy, and it'll be the same, category as their local Novus Ordo priest who's promoting the Pride agenda. Or what about virus heresy? Is a priest a virus priest? Does he promote the jab? Does they take away they take away some of the important things of mass? Like, I don't want to say every priest that took away holy water is evil, no, but I think it's a bad decision. If the bishop requires that, then there's no reason that the priest shouldn't disobey the bishop. Um, Also, what about preaching heresy? Like, if the priest says, for example, there's a reasonable hope that all are saved, that's not true. That's not Catholic. And so, would that qualify the priest as being in mortal sin? I don't know. That's up for you to discern. But you should definitely avoid masses where you suspect there's some false teaching being preached from the pulpit. Um, and so it's really situational. You could have a Novus Ordo mass where you have a good priest, and that's fully valid, fully licit. But the two other qualities of the liturgy, fitting and authentic. And does the Novus Ordo mass does it fit either of those categories? Most of them probably not. I would say well over 99% of Novus Ordos are not reverent. I don't know if they're, and maybe I can get into that a little bit. The reverence of the Novus Ordo. So, what makes a reverent Novus Ordo? Um, so, with the no, and I don't know, guys. Like, Father Richard Heilman says one of the most reverent Novus Ordos, at least in the United States. He's at St. Mary's Pine Bluff, and you can look that up on there. I believe they stream their masses on their YouTube channel. At least they used to, so you can see what it looks like. So he has this beautiful high altar. They have only boy altar servers, which is, if you don't have exclusively boy altar servers, is it really a reverent Novus Ordo? No. Um, and they have chant. He has some of it in Latin. Um, what else? Altar rail. but he gives communion in the hand because that's part of the Novus Ordo rite is communion in the hand. That's not reverent. Okay, so there's another strike against it. But then also, I think he had a female lector at one point. You shouldn't have lay people. I don't think lay people should be lectors. So um, there's another strike. So the most reverent Novus Ordo Mass in possibly the entire United States, um, it's not nearly as reverent as even the most basic low Mass that's said. So, what do you want to do with your spiritual life? And the SSPX will say that um, in terms of like ordinations, I think the SSPX isn't sure if if they believe that Novus Ordo ordinations are valid. Now, me personally, I think they are. I think they're valid. The SSPX also says that the Novus Ordo is spiritually detrimental, and I don't know. That's up to you to decide. I know a lot of people have a lot of opinions, but what I said with like the most reverent Novus Ordo, it's not even as reverent as the most basic low mass, low Latin mass. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say on that. Um, I am going to move on, and we're going to talk about the. Let me pull this up here. We're going to talk about the SSPX a little bit. So, why do bishops dislike the SSPX? And so, I want to read you a letter that was written from the Diocese of Gaylord, Michigan. So, there was LifeSite News posted a YouTube video about the reopening of St. Charles Church. And I'm just going to read you this letter. This is in the jurisdiction or in the geographical boundaries of the Diocese of Gaylord, Michigan. So they said that there was a recent video titled The Reopening of St. Charles Church. This video is of a traditional Latin Mass celebrated on July 11th, 2021 in the now closed St. Charles Church. To address any questions in this regard, we hope this clarification will be helpful. St. Charles Parish was closed and merged with St. Mary's in the late 1980s and is known as St. Mary St. Charles. The St. Charles Church building was sold first to another church and then later to an individual seeking to restore the building as a location for the traditional Latin Mass with no authorization from the Bishop of Gaylord. The St. Mary Church site is the parish church for St. Mary St. Charles Parish. So they closed the church building, or they merged the parishes first, then closed the church building, and then it was sold to a third party who sold it to the SSPX, or sold it to a guy who invited the SSPX in. So good job to that guy. Number one, no permission was sought or granted by the Diocese of Gaylord to reopen the St. Charles Church as a Catholic church, as would be required by canon law. Well, they don't care about canon law. Ryan and I talked about that in our last video. So, and if all your priests are required to wear their clerics at all times, then you'd be in compliance with canon law. If all your seminarians are required to learn Latin, you'd be in compliance with canon law. If not, then I wouldn't quote canon law because you just quoting it as it suits best your arguments, even though you're not in compliance with canon law. And then number two, no permission was sought or granted to celebrate Mass or other religious services at the St. Charles building. Number three, no priest requested or was granted authorization to conduct services at the St. Charles building. With regard to clergy involved in the July celebrations, they are part of a group called the Society of St. Pius X who have not been reconciled with Rome. We have no knowledge of who the priests were, and no letter of suitability was requested or provided to the bishop as required for all Catholic clergy functioning in the United States. That's a little bit misleading. They have jurisdiction from Rome, so the bishop is just really angry. Okay, and then St. Mary St. Charles is the sole recognized Roman Catholic Church in Sheboygan. Mass is celebrated by the Society of St. Pius X or others at the St. Charles Church site are valid but illicit. These celebrations should be avoided by Roman Catholics. All right, so we're going to... what's the hostility with the bishops in regards to the SSPX? Well, first off, the SSPX isn't sure if their ordinations are valid. Isn't sure if the Novus Ordo bishops' ordinations are valid. So there's one thing. The SSPX, they say don't attend the new mass. They say basically more or less you're dispensed. If you're not able to make it to a Latin mass, you're dispensed from attending if your Novus Ordo is your only option. Um, so the Novus Ordo bishops aren't really happy with the SSPX perspective towards the Novus Ordo. Now it goes both ways here because they're saying, okay, the SSPX masses are not licit. Um, okay, so I guess the conversation that a lot of Novus Ordo people will say, the Orthodox Divine Liturgy is not licit and you shouldn't attend except in an emergency situation or, in a situation of necessity. Well, what happened? The shutdown last year. So the all the Novus Ordo bishops shut down all their masses, and you could have attended an Orthodox Divine Liturgy, but most of them shut down their masses. The SSPX remained open. That would be a state of emergency. But when they opened back up, there are all these virus protocols in place, so would that still necessitate a state of emergency? And then, if your local mass, if your local Novus Ordo is not licit and the bishop's not doing anything about it, because maybe your pastor, the Novus Ordo pastor, is preaching heresy. Maybe he's supporting the rainbow agenda. Then that mass is not licit. And so, what's wrong with going to the SSPX mass? Because at that point, you're choosing between a mass that is not definitely like the Novus Ordo mass is definitely not licit, and then you're choosing between another mass which is bishops say is not licit, which I don't know if that's even really true. Um, and this hostility, I believe it comes down to money. Because if you look, the SSPX goes into places and people go there because they want a Latin Mass. And then the bishops aren't getting a cut of that. And so they're really angry about the SSPX. Now, I believe during the shutdown, there were bishops who made a lot of comments about, or not just bishops, I think there were other priests too who said, don't attend the SSPX. So it's like, okay, I can either live stream a Mass or I can attend a Mass. What would you rather do? And so they're like, okay, well, we banned you from Mass, but don't attend the SSPX. Really? So this is what would constitute a state of emergency. And I don't think too many good people, even the people that were skeptical of the SSPX, had a problem with it. But once they opened back up, so okay, you wouldn't want to attend a Mass anyway that's that's problematic, that's a bad Mass. So like if you would attend an SSPX Mass all of a sudden when Mass is open back up, what makes the SSPX bad at that point? Why would you attend the Mass in the first place if it's a bad thing? So that's my question. Logically, it doesn't make any sense. So like I wouldn't, if the only service, if there was like a Protestant like praise and worship service that was open during the shutdown, why would you attend that? So it doesn't really make much sense to me using that logic. What else do I have? Oh, okay, so the Diocese of Gaylord promotes Word on Fire. Okay. Yeah. It's a big promotion right at the bottom of their page. So you can see this hostility towards the SSPX. Now, here's the thing too. We're as a church, we're in a state of emergency. Some of our masses are being banned as we speak. There's a lot of crazy stuff going down, and bishops are banning people from the traditional sacraments. They're banning priests from saying the old Mass, which is crazy. It's absolutely insane to deprive these priests of their right to say the right to say the Mass of their right, RITE. So, which bishops, like, how are they accompanying people? What are they doing to accompany people? And like using the modern church speak, they refuse to dialogue with traditionalists. Instead, they demand blind obedience. They don't demand obedience from anyone else. They don't demand obedience from Father James Martin. Because if they did, then Father James Martin would have been excommunicated by now. What about Bishop Barron? Is he preaching 100% Catholicism? I know he posted something recently about the Harvard chaplain. Did you hear about this? There's a Harvard chaplain. Uh, I guess it's like a general chaplain for the campus. The person who was voted to be the chaplain is an atheist. I mean that goes in line with some of the stuff we're seeing in the Catholic faith. A lot of these bishops are promoting these atheistic morals, like the eco theology, and there's nothing being done about it. So, and Bishop Barron did post how he disagreed with that, and I said, well, first off, it's Harvard. It's a non-Christian affiliated university, so who cares? But even if you elect, or even if a Protestant pastor was voted to be the chaplain, there's still a need of salvation through the church. Outside the church, there is no salvation. So, do they have a Trinitarian baptism? What are their beliefs? So, I don't like, I don't know, but if you preach, there's a reasonable hope that all are saved. What does that have? Like, what does that mean? Does that mean you're in error? Does that mean you're in heresy? I mean, you're obviously in error, but are you in heresy? And does that make the mass illicit? I don't know. These are questions that I can't answer. I'm just posing these questions here. And your local Novus Ordo, I don't have any idea what your local Novus Ordos are like. And I'm not going to judge anyone for attending any local Novus Ordo. I actually attended, I will admit this, I attended a Novus Ordo Mass for January 1st. And the thing is, in the Novus Ordo, it's a different feast day than it is from the traditional rite. And so, whatever. But I didn't have any Byzantine churches either that I could attend. They were both shut, all of my Byzantine options were shut down for the virus situations. I guess some of the priests had gotten the virus and they shut down for a few weeks or whatever. And there was also like a snowstorm, so I attended the Novus Ordo. What do you do in that situation? I was dispensed from attending. So what did I do in that situation? I attended the Novus Ordo. Did I want to? No. But I kind of weighed my options and I said, well, I don't know, and I still don't know if it was the right thing to do or not. I'm not, and I don't attend Novus Ordos. Like I attend maybe sacraments, like a wedding. If there's a baptism, I don't know. Funerals, yeah, but it's not good. Like it's just not good. I can't do it. You know. And some of you, I think, might be at that point where you're attending Novus Ordo and you're like, I can't do it. Don't do it. Go to the Latin Mass. Find a Byzantine Divine Liturgy. Find something else. Find a better option. I don't know. Um, that's all I have to say on that. So I guess that's it. Um, do so the hostility of the diocese bishops, priests towards the SSPX. I think it comes down to money. They don't get a cut of the SSPX. But the problem is, you need to try to recruit local SSPX parishes because that might be what we're forced to do. We might be forced to go to the SSPX if we want a Latin Mass. Like, who knows the future of the Institute of the FSSP? There's definitely a lot of rumors swirling around them. There might be some crackdowns coming from Rome in regards to these religious orders. It's a possibility. Have you ever considered that? Have a plan in place, you know? Um, you need to have a plan in place for what you're going to do in your local community. How do you get the old rite sacraments? Maybe you have to go Byzantine. Maybe you're not going to get the old rite sacraments. Maybe you'll find a priest who'll give it to you. Maybe, you know, you gotta try to talk to your bishop too. I mean, if you have an opportunity to talk to your bishop, it's something you can try. Some bishops are more interactive than others. I see a few. Let's see here. I see some comments coming in. So, uh, so far, everything you're saying is in most Novus Ordos. Get out. And then he said they feel threatened. The bishops feel threatened by all traditionalists. That's usually I mean, that seems like it's the case. Also, I can mention Brother Martin Navarro. I don't know if any of you recognize him from Twitter. Him and Father John Stone are part of the Oblates of St. Augustine, and they're kind of traveling around trying to find a monastery. And it's really interesting to follow their adventure. I don't know what their situation is, but I know they just moved to a new monastery. They might be driving right now as we speak to a new location for a monastery. I don't know. Um, so that's an interesting situation to follow. I like to see all these traditionalist groups. Problem is, with the motu proprio, bishops are going to be hesitant to establish new traditional orders in their dioceses. And like I said, SSPX is going to be the way to go in the near future. Try to network with them however you can, because we're going to need the old rite priests. How many FSSP or Institute priests will leave? How many FSSP seminarians or Institute priests will transfer to the SSPX seminaries? I don't know. But this is going to be our option. If we want the Catholic faith, this is going to be pretty much our only option is the SSPX if you can. Find a parish. And I don't know, I think we got to tread water for a little while when we kind of gain our footing under us. But then once we pick up momentum, because the traditionalist movement was really picking up momentum, and a lot of people are really upset about what's going on in these dioceses with these horribly compromised bishops. It's just pathetic. They're like, Pope Francis, please make me a cardinal. I'm gonna shut down all the Latin masses if you make me a cardinal. Really? That's the only thing I can think of that would be their motivation to shut down Latin masses, because a lot of these bishops, they don't promote the Catholic faith. They don't care about canon law. This diocese reference canon law. Well, they don't follow. I'm I'm gonna say there's no diocese in the United States, no diocesan bishop, Novus Ordo diocesan bishop that follows canon law 100%. They're all not in compliance with canon law. Do all their seminarians learn Latin? Do all their priests wear clerics all the time? No. So they're not in compliance with canon law. And and there was a conversation I had yesterday, like, why do these priests want to become priests? Like, if you're gonna say the Novus Ordo, and you're gonna give hand communion, you're gonna work primarily with female readers, that's another thing, Eucharistic ministers. I didn't even point that out. I don't think that Father Richard Heilman has Eucharistic ministers, which is good. You shouldn't. And I believe Pope John Paul II, I forget what kind of document he wrote. It wasn't a motu proprio. It might have been an apostolic exhortation. I don't know. But he said that Eucharistic ministers should not be used excessively. What constitutes excessively? Is it at every Mass? Is that excessive? Because most Novus Ordos, even for daily Masses, have Eucharistic ministers distributing communion. Do you need any Eucharistic ministers at all during Mass? Now, people might be able to make an argument for outside of Mass. I don't know. Um, if you say, okay, Eucharistic ministers are going to take communion to all these nursing homes, okay, maybe you have an argument there. I think the priest should do that. But maybe there's like one priest covering the entire county, for like 4 parishes in an entire county. I don't know. It probably happens some places. And if that's the case, maybe. But there should be some kind of like liturgical ministry if that's the case, and really it should just be the ordained should touch the Eucharist. I don't know. There's debates for that. We can have debates over that. I don't have strong opinions on that, but I don't think Eucharistic ministers are necessary to any Mass. That's just my perspective. Yeah, so that's all I have for you today. Is your Novus Ordo Mass valid? It's probably valid. I mean, most Novus Ordo Masses are probably valid. I'm not going to say that they're not. That's up for you to, but is it licit? And that's up for you to determine. If it's licit. If it's not, then you need to leave. Sorry. That's really all there is to it. So thank you so much for watching. This has been, my kind of rant, my perspective on things. So we are the laity, and we will not be silent.